So Evil Dead 2 was directed by Sam Raimi and it starred Bruce Campbell as the incredibly groovy Ash Williams. This time around, Ash takes his new girlfriend up to the cabin where various things begin happening. An army of the undead are come out thanks to a recording, and basically now Ash has to fight this incredibly obnoxious army of the undead, and other various things begin happening throughout this movie. So, Evil Dead 2, I did watch at some point back when I was like in high school or college, and I don't think I really appreciated it then. But like, since I have watched it again, I do really like this movie. I like this movie about as much as the first Evil Dead, but for completely different reasons. Now, Evil Dead was, it was a straight up horror movie, but you can definitely tell that there was a campiness to it. It's like obviously it's very low budget, was going to make it look unprofessional, so it kind of looks like it definitely looks a little unprofessional, but it's still really well done. The horror is really great. The humor is used sparingly. Evil Dead 2 is the complete opposite. It's a straight up comedy, and it does work. Some people call this like a remake or like a reboot or requel or something like that. Honestly, I feel like it's just kind of a reimagining. Like, let's take the same concept from the first Evil Dead movie. Let's kind of change a few things. Let's kind of like add a few new story elements, but like let's try to make the same movie in a way, but let's try to reimagine it as a comedy. Like, one of those trailers that, that comes out and it's like, oh, let's take this movie that seems lighthearted, but if you really twist it, you can make it seem like it's something completely different. You ever see those? They're a lot of fun. But yeah, Evil Dead 2. This movie is just pure camp. Honestly, I was laughing at this movie a lot. Like, especially there's this one scene where, Ash shoots like the wall for a second and he's like, I think I got you. But then all of a sudden this blood just starts spurting all over him and he's just like moving around all over the place. That was a lot of fun. But then like all of a sudden it just goes back and it turns black and it's like, it kind of looks like it's reversed. I don't know if it was because it looks like Bruce Campbell's doing the same exact moves, just in reverse. And he doesn't have anything on him. I guess it was. I don't know if it was. It looks like it, but I'm not entirely convinced. But then, like, he falls backwards. He thinks everything's fine, but then he's, like, losing his mind when he sees all these objects that are just laughing at him, and he just goes into it. Bruce Campbell is incredible in this movie. He is pretty much a one-man show for at least half the movie, and he does a really good job. He is really funny. He is incredible. He's a great, comedic performer, like stunt performer. And I also really like how in this movie, you kind of see like his sanity just slowly deteriorate in this movie. It's just it's honestly kind of funny to me. And I think Bruce Campbell does a really good job of showing that. The makeup on the Deadites on this movie are also really good. I don't know if they're as good as the ones from the first Evil Dead, but they are pretty creative. A lot of times they do switch around and kind of like change into different heads. I thought that was pretty interesting. The camera angles in this movie are also very fascinating too. Like the camera angles in the first Evil Dead movie were pretty cool, but this one kind of takes it up a bit. That was really fun. And the movie just kept moving. It was full of surprises, like especially towards the end. Obviously, if you have not seen Evil Dead 2 by now, he's transported into medieval times, the Middle Ages basically. And it just when you think you know where this is going to go, it just takes a hard turn to a completely different area where you just never expect it to go. And also, the movie is thankfully mercifully short. I feel like a movie like this, if it was like, over 90 minutes, it would get a little too draining. It would just not feel as entertaining. But it's a short 80 minutes. It's a blast. It's fun from beginning to end. If I had to say anything that I don't like about this movie is pretty much the new cast is not really that interesting. The new girlfriend, she didn't really interest me. These people who come to the cabin because of a misunderstanding, they didn't really interest me too much. Now, some would argue that the characters in the first Evil Dead weren't that interesting, but I kind of knew that those characters weren't going to be, that interesting. We knew that they were going to be turning into, like, Deadites anyway, but at least those actors kind of gave memorable performances before they turned into Deadites. These new characters do little to nothing for me. I couldn't remember their names. I didn't remember the actors who played them. The only one who's like, he kind of like goes, she helps him like get the chainsaw on his hand and everything. But I honestly couldn't care for any of these new characters. But other than that, Evil Dead 2, total blast. I love the comedy in this movie. I love the fact that it is just a straight up comedy rather than a horror movie. Bruce Campbell, incredible in this movie. The makeup's great. The camera angles are fascinating. It just keeps moving and keeps moving. And I just feel like it's just a perfect, short, A fun horror movie short horror movie overall. Even though I don't really like the majority of the new cast, this is still fun, especially if you like the first Evil Dead movie. I'll give Evil Dead 2 3.5 out of 4 stars. See it. So, what did you think of Evil Dead 2? Also, what's your favorite horror movie sequel? Comment down below, subscribe to the channel. This is Pat. Stay safe.